Welcome to today's lesson, solving for unknown angles when transversals are involved. Before we begin, we're going to do a quick review of some vocabulary terms. Parallel lines, here's a symbol for parallel. Looks like an 11. Lines that never intersect or touch. So in the first example, these would be our parallel lines. Transversal is a line that passes through two lines, and in this case passes through two parallel lines. This would be our transversal. Now you might notice on my diagram that I have arrows on the parallel lines. Whenever you see arrows on the lines, it tells us that in fact those two lines are parallel. So if you want to mark off lines as being parallel, you would put arrows on each facing in the same direction. So we're going to start by identifying interior angles. That means located inside the parallel lines. So that would be like 3, 4, 5, and 6. Exterior angles are located outside of the parallel lines, so that would be like the 1, 2, 7, and 8. Alternate interior. You see the word interior, so they're still located inside the parallel lines, but alternate means on opposite sides of your transversal. So one pair would be 3 and 6. The other pair would be 4 and 5. Alternate exterior, you see the word exterior, that means located on the outside of the parallel lines. Again, alternate means opposite sides of the transversal. So in this case, we would be looking at 1 and 8 would be one pair, and 2 and 7 would be the other. Corresponding angles. The best way that I can describe corresponding angles is as follows. If you were to put a circle around the top 4 angles and put a circle around the bottom 4 angles, pick this circle up off your paper and place it on top of this circle on the bottom. Which angles would lie on top of each other or correspond with each other? 1 would land on 5, 2 would land on 6, 3 would land on 7, and 4 would land on 8. Same side interior angles, interior. So this is the opposite of alternate interior. Now we want angles that are on the same side of the transversal inside the parallel lines. So an example would be 3 and 5. And the other pair would be 4 and 6. Now, properties of these angles that were formed at the top. First property, alternate interior angles are congruent. So that means 3 is congruent to 6 and 4 is congruent to 5. And this property also holds true for alternate exterior, which would mean 1 is equal to 8 and 2 is equal to 7. So also for alternate exterior. Corresponding angles are congruent. So if you look at corresponding angles, 1 is equal to 5, 2 is equal to 6, 3 is equal to 7, and 4 is equal to 8. Finally, be careful with this one, same side interior. Now, they are not congruent in this case, they are supplementary. And if you recall what supplementary means, it means they add up to 180. So if you were to add up the measure of 3 and 5, they would add up to 180. If you were to add up the measure of 4 and 6, they would also add up to 180. Okay, we're going to do some examples that involve the pairs of angles that we just talked about on the front page. And in example 1, it says, if M is parallel to N, so line M is parallel to line N, angle 1 is 150. Find the measure of the remaining angles and provide your reasoning. So let's mark off the 150 in our diagram first. Now we can go through any of the pairs that we just talked about on the front page. So if I wanted to, I could start with alternate exterior. I could start with corresponding. So let's say we're to work with corresponding. I'm going to put my circles around these guys. If 1 is 150, then 5 is also 150. So let's mark that off. 5 is 150, and that's corresponding angles. Now, we're going to think about the pairs of angles that we talked about yesterday. One of them was vertical angles. Vertical angles are formed by intersecting lines. So if you were to look at these two lines, this parallel line and this transversal, they intersect. Intersecting lines form vertical angles, which means angle 1 and angle 4 are equal. So 4 also has to be 150 vertical angles. And you can do the same thing down here. Since 5 is 150, we have this pair of intersecting lines. 8 must also be 150. Again, vertical angles. Now, there are several different ways we can find the remaining angles. Let's use what we talked about today. Let's start with same side interior angles. So I'm looking on the inside. One pair of same side on the same side of the transversal interior would be 3 and 5. Same side interior angles are supplementary. So if 5 is 150 and I want to find 3, I would do 180 minus 50, 150, and you are going to get 30. And this is same side interior angles. Okay, so now that we know that 3 is 30, we can find 2. This is another pair of vertical angles. If 3 is 30, then 2 is also 30. Vertical angles are congruent. Vertical angles. Okay, down to 6 and 7. If we want to use corresponding again, we have these 4 angles. I pick them up, I place them down here on top of these 4. 2 would land on 6. Since 2 is 30, 6 is also 30. Corresponding angles. Now to find 7, we could do vertical, or again, we could do corresponding. 3 with 7, it's your choice. I'm going to do corresponding. 3 corresponds with 7, so they are congruent. Corresponding angles. Okay, down to example 2. If M is parallel to N, find the value of X for the problems below. So again, you need to know what type of angle we're talking about from the front page before you can find X. So if you were to put a circle around the top 4 and put a circle around the bottom 4, pick these 4 up, place them down here. This would land directly on top of this. And if you recall from the front page, those are known as corresponding. Well, corresponding angles are congruent. So if they're congruent, their measures are equal. We're going to set them equal to each other, and we're going to find X. So you have to recall how to solve an equation from last year. I want to get X all alone, so I'm going to add the 3. And I have X equals 86, and I'm finished. Oh, not quite. Oh, yeah, we just had to solve for X, so we're good. Oh, I made a mistake here. It's X minus 13. So we had to add the 13. So actually it would come out to be 96. X is 96. Okay, and does it say to give the reason? No, but we can say corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, over to the next example. What pair would this be from the front page? These would be the alternate interior since they're located on the inside of the parallel lines and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Alternate interior are equal, so we're going to set them equal. 5x minus 25 equals 3x plus 25, and we're going to solve. So we're going to solve for x. I'm going to subtract the 3x first. 2x minus 25 equals 25. I'm going to add the 25 to both sides. So we have 2x equals 50. I'm going to divide 2 on both sides. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X is 25. Now you can always check yourself by substituting the x value back in. Find the value of this angle, the value of this angle, and since they're alternate interior, they should be equal to each other. Next example, what pair would this be? Well, they're interior. They're on the same side of the transversal, so these guys would be same side interior. What did we say about same side interior? That they're supplementary. Supplementary means that they add up to 180. So 3x plus 60 plus x plus 40 equals 180. Let's combine like terms on the left-hand side. 3x and 1x is 4x. 60 plus 40 is 100. Remember, I'm trying to solve for x. I'm going to subtract the 100. 4x equals 80. I'm going to divide by 4. And x equals 20. Last example. What pair would this be? Well, they're not alternate exterior because this guy's interior. They would not be alternate interior because this guy's exterior. So let's see if we can do a little bit of work here. I'm going to put the circle up here, put the circle down here. Recall, by corresponding, if you pick up these 4 and place them on top of these 4, corresponding angles will match up and they are congruent. So if this angle is 4x plus 5, this angle must also be 4x plus 5. Now we can determine what type of angle these two are. And it looks like they are angles on a line, which means that they are supplementary, which means they're going to add up to 180. So we're going to add these together, set them equal to 180. Let's combine like terms on the left-hand side first. 4x and 2x is 6x. 5 minus 11 is negative 6. Now we're solving for x, so we're going to add 6 to both sides. 6x equals 186. I'm going to divide by 6. And x is equal to 31.